So, as a little girl, I was told the police were there to protect me and that if I was separated from my parents or if I was in trouble, I should get a police officer to help. And I think that maybe the majority of Americans think, oh, like, if someone beats me up, if someone steals my stuff, police is the social institution that is there to protect me and my stuff. And this is basically a lie. This is not the origin of the police force. Police forces were organized historically in America for three reasons: to break strikes to keep workers from getting fair wages, to catch and runaway slaves, and to keep Indigenous peoples away from settlements and keep us in possession of the land we stole. And so, when the police force is organized for these purposes, it's not surprising that the modern day police force continues to fight for the rights of money over people, for the rights of power over safety. And my disillusionment with the police began when I was a brand new Oaklander back in 2012, and I had moved into this West Oakland home. West Oakland had just started gentrifying at that point. I guess I was part of the gentrification, but I was a kid. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know nothing. And I heard gunshots, a few weeks into living in my new home, and I called the police because I thought that's what you do when you hear gunshots. And the police said, "We're very busy. We don't have time to respond to these gunshots, but if you really want to, we can come by in 3 or 4 hours and take your report." I was calling them at 11 p.m. I said, "I can't stay up to 2 or 3 a.m. for you to take my report. Like, aren't you worried that somebody is being shot? Don't you want to protect whatever lives are being endangered?" And they're like, "No, it's really not on our priority list." And so from then on, when I heard gunshots, I didn't call the police. I got the message that they didn't care. About a year later, I was, at the West Oakland BART, and someone came up and said they were in trouble and they needed to borrow my phone. And I said, "I'll make a call for you." I wasn't letting go of my phone. And when I pulled out my phone to make the call, the accomplice of the person who had asked me to pull out my phone biked up behind me real fast and snatched my phone out of my hand and biked away. And I called the police to report the theft. And I said, "How can I use the Find My iPhone feature to collaborate with you in getting my phone back?" And the police said, "I don't know how to use the Find My iPhone feature. Why are you asking me this question?" And got the message. The police didn't, care about my stuff. So, a few years later, when I saw a person with a knife outside my apartment building, I didn't bother calling the police. I knew they wouldn't care. Instead, I called my best friend and I cried about being scared. And that was that. We never knew why there was a man with a knife, walking around outside my apartment. And when my purse was snatched and, I didn't bother calling the police because I knew they didn't give a fuck about, me having to spend my hard-earned money to replace the contents of that purse. They knew they didn't care. And I think people who don't live in areas where there's a lot of crime, they think the problem is, oh, there aren't enough police. If we had more police, we would be safe. The problem is not that there aren't enough police. The problem is that the police's job is not preventing people from being shot. The problem is that the police's job is not getting your stolen phone back. That's a naive belief. That is a lie. They tell you that's the police's job, so you'll accept that your money is being spent, your taxpayer money is being spent on police. How do we find out what the police's real job is? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I went through the police commission meeting minutes, and I found a spreadsheet which logs every call and every incident that, the police have responded to in the past year. I will include a link to this spreadsheet in the description of this video so you can look at the information for yourself. And, there are, some responses to violence in the spreadsheet, but we see that the real focus for the police is towing cars, which means, I think in general, towing the cars of homeless people. Being like, "You're a homeless person, you can't be here in your car, I'm gonna move you and fuck you, I don't know how you're gonna live your life." 40% of the homeless people in Oakland have jobs. There are substance abuse and mental health issues among the homeless, just as there are among people who have homes. But in Oakland specifically, not being able to pay rent is the most common reason for being homeless. And so another thing you'll see the police do is they respond to encampments, which is a euphemism for they go to a place where homeless people are living and they take all the homeless people's possessions and they throw them in the garbage and they don't pay them back. And, there are better ways to do this. Like if a camp is a fire hazard or whatever, there are ways to deal with it that doesn't involve actively destroying the property of people who have very little. But this is not the way the city of Oakland chooses to do business. It's actually illegal to force homeless people to move if you don't have a place for them to go. The Supreme Court case of Martin versus Boise ruled that this is, the cruelty of this is unacceptable. But the city of Oakland has broken the Martin versus Boise ruling several times and is being actively sued. The lawsuits are still open. They don't care that they're breaking the law to persecute homeless people. What they care about is that, white homeowners are calling them, complaining about poor Black people being nearby. This is racial warfare. And the police, just as they did when they were capturing runaway slaves, they are continuing this racial warfare today. A huge proportion of our homeless population is Black. And I think it's disgusting that a huge amount of the city taxes I pay are being used on this racial warfare. And the plausible excuse for having a force, that it's there for my safety, for my snatched purse, I know it's a lie because I've experienced that it's a lie. And if you have not experienced that it's a lie, you are being naive. You are being unbelievably naive, and I suggest you look into the history of the Oakland police force. How, when I was a 12-year-old girl in Iowa, they were beating up poor Black people in West Oakland and coming under federal indictment because they were so corrupt. How 11 years ago, they shot down Oscar Grant in cold blood, an innocent man. There's a movie you can watch about it. It's called Fruitvale Station. Oscar Grant's mom wants Fruitvale Station to be renamed Oscar Grant Station. But the city won't do that. They're not interested in doing that. They're not interested in that form of restitution to honor the importance of his life. And, while the George Floyd protests were happening, another Black man was shot in Oakland, not by the OPD, by a police force they collaborate with. But it's just the death continues. There's a mural in Oakland that says the city is covered with the names of our dead friends. And it's true. Our land is steeped in blood, and if somehow the ghosts of the dead magically arose and demanded vengeance, we would deserve that vengeance. And the only thing we can do is do everything in our power to get the money away from this corrupt, racist body that is made their business waging war on the Black people of Oakland instead of protecting the rules of law and order. They have contempt for their mission of protecting people. And how do we know they have contempt? The police chief Mannheimer, in the recent debates about updating the Oakland use of force policy, she wants to defend a police officer's right to put their knee on the chest of a victim and keep them from breathing. It's called asphyxiation restraint. She has reluctantly accepted that the uproar over George Floyd is going to lead to reforms where the police officers cannot put their knee on the neck of the victim, but she wants them to continue having the right to put their knee on the chest of the victim. And that is what she is fighting for. That is what she is fighting for. And meanwhile, people who work in group homes, people who have to, restrain clients with mental illness, these people are trained in nonviolent restraint techniques that work perfectly well. Why don't the police want to use those techniques? Because their mission is warfare. Their mission is not protection. So don't be so naive about what the police's mission is. If you are, I used to be very uncomfortable when I saw stuff like fuck the police or cops are pigs, because I believe all people are human. And every police officer is a beautiful human soul. That's a fundamental part of my belief. That as a Christian, that the oppressor is human, the oppressed is human. But when the oppressor practices oppression, they're damaging their own humanity. So if I love the police, then I have to, provide a pathway of liberation that they're no longer practicing a profession that destroys their humanity and erodes their soul. And so that's why I support Defend the OPD, and why I'm following events in Oakland very closely, and why you should follow them closely too and be prepared to provide whatever support is needed. Thanks for hearing me out.